What Stefanos Tsitsipas is doing when he loads a dumbbell, stands on one leg and explodes up onto a box is not merely a dramatic gym trick. It is a compact, high-value training movement that combines the physiology of plyometrics, the sport-specific transfer of unilateral strength training, and the practical endurance demands of modern tennis. The single-leg loaded box jump is deceptively simple in description, but complex in its demands. It asks the athlete to produce a very high rate of force from a single limb, to control a heavy landing, and to repeat that output under fatigue, all qualities that are directly useful to how a top-level player moves, recovers, and finishes points on court. Evidence from the training world and peer-reviewed research helps explain why this specific exercise sits so comfortably in the toolbox of a player with Tsitsipas's profile. Biomechanically, the exercise exploits the stretch shortening cycle, SSC, which is the rapid sequence of eccentric loading, muscle lengthening, a brief transition, the amortization phase, and explosive concentric shortening. Efficient SSC function raises an athlete's ability to convert stored elastic energy and neuromuscular preactivation into immediate force, the technical definition of explosive power. Plyometric training, as a category, has repeatedly been shown to increase jump height and lower limb power by improving the SSC and the nervous system's rate of force development. Meta-analytic data support meaningful, practical increases in vertical jump performance after plyometric programs. Translating that to tennis, a stronger SSC means a faster initial push-off when changing direction, a higher reactive ability when cutting to a wide ball, and a crisper, more forceful drive through the legs into the kinetic chain that ultimately accelerates the ball. Using just one leg makes the movement far more specific to tennis than bilateral jumps. Tennis is a game of asymmetry. Players break and reaccelerate from staggered stances, land and push off on a single limb during split-step responses, and frequently generate horizontal and vertical force from a single leg plant into a shot. Unilateral training has been demonstrated to produce superior improvements in single-leg power qualities when compared with bilateral-only training, and that transfer is particularly relevant for sport actions that rely on single-leg force production. For Tsitsipas, whose game blends baseline sprints, abrupt lateral recoveries, and a one-legged drive into his forehand and defensive scrambles, the unilateral loaded jump mirrors the limb-specific demands he sees thousands of times in matches. It not only builds force, but also helps the nervous system learn to recruit motor units on one side effectively under load, thereby closing the gap between gym strength and on-court expression. Adding a dumbbell, creating a loaded plyometric, changes the stimulus in important ways. When you increase the external load, you increase the work that must be done across the eccentric and concentric phases, which can boost both muscular power and rate of force development when used intelligently. Studies comparing loaded and unloaded jump programs show that introducing external resistance, weighted vests, handheld loads, can enhance improvements in muscle power, sprint speed, and change of direction performance in athletes when programmed appropriately. For Tsitsipas, who needs both vertical explosion for serve and recovery and horizontal quickness for wide retrievals and push-off into forehands, loaded single-leg jumps increase the absolute force ceiling the leg can produce, making lighter, faster tennis movements feel more powerful by comparison. The practice also serves as a practical bridge step. Once the athlete can control a heavy, single-limb load and land safely, they can express higher relative power at match speed. There is a direct line from this sort of lower body training to measurable on-court outcomes, and multiple systematic reviews and studies connect strength and plyometric training to higher serve speeds and better sprint agility characteristics in tennis players. While serve velocity is a multi-segment action that depends on legs, hips, trunk, shoulder, and wrist sequencing, the legs initiate and supply a large portion of the kinetic energy that the upper body then channels into racket speed. Strength and conditioning interventions that include lower body resistance and power work consistently produce small to moderate increases in serve speed and stroke velocity. Plyometric elements, when included as part of multimodal programs, are often the component that boosts rapid power expression. For Tsitsipas, who couples baseline rallying with an aggressive serving strategy. Increased lower limb power and repeatability of explosive efforts help maintain serve quality late in matches and improve his ability to generate pace without sacrificing balance or accuracy. Endurance in tennis is not just aerobic capacity, it is power endurance, the ability to produce repeated near-maximal bursts without a significant drop in force or speed. Performing loaded single-leg box jumps in higher repetition sets or in conditioning blocks that simulate the stop-start pattern of a match trains the muscular and neurological systems to tolerate repeated high-intensity outputs and to preserve technique as fatigue accumulates. That means fewer mechanical breakdowns on late-match wide recoveries, more stable landings into defensive to offensive transitions, and a better chance that the game-critical first serve or explosive approach will still be available in the final set. Scoping reviews of plyometric programming highlight not only improvements in single-burst metrics, but also their role in sustained explosive performance when properly periodized. Beyond performance, single-leg loaded jumps are a powerful tool for improving proprioception, joint stiffness regulation, and eccentric control. Three cornerstones of injury prevention in a sport that repeatedly loads the knee, ankle, and hip in unplanned ways. The act of landing a heavy single-leg jump forces precise alignment of the knee and ankle, teaches soft but controlled absorption of ground reaction forces, and strengthens the posterior chain eccentrically, which is critical for decelerations and sudden directional changes. Proprioceptive and balance training has an evidence base showing reductions in injury rates and improvements in functional movement, meaning these loaded jumps serve both performance and protective roles when performed with sound technique and appropriate progression. Programming this exercise for a player like Tsitsipas requires an appreciation for intensity, volume, and recovery. Heavy loaded plyometrics are not a daily activity. They are high neural load movements that should be placed in power or maximal strength phases and scheduled with enough rest between sets and sessions to preserve quality. Kinetic analyses of plyometric intensity underscore the importance of monitoring ground reaction forces, landing mechanics, and fatigue markers. Practitioners often start with unloaded single-leg jumps, progress to moderate load, light dumbbell or vest, and only then add heavier handheld loads if technique and landing control remain excellent. Complementary work, eccentric strength for hamstrings and glutes, core bracing for energy transfer, and ankle mobility for safe dorsiflexion makes the loaded jump safer and more effective, and those foundational elements should precede heavy loading in any periodized plan. Squats with added resistance are more than a foundational strength movement. They become a full-body orchestration of power, stability, and coordination that echoes through every facet of elite tennis performance. When Tsitsipas descends into a weighted squat, barbell or dumbbell, he recruits his quadriceps, glutes, hamstrings, and core in unison. The deep knee flexion and hip hinge demanded by the squat drive both concentric force and eccentric control, fostering muscular responses that translate directly into more explosive leg drive, smoother landings, and better directional shifts on court. By building strength throughout the entire posterior and anterior chain, quads, glutes, hamstrings, adductors, spinal erectors, and abdominals, weighted squats elevate Tsitsipas's capacity not just to press upward into powerful serves and vertical leaps, but also to resist the hundreds of eccentric landings during long rallies. The resultant muscle synergy makes his motions more efficient, energy flow more coherent, and fatigue resistance more resilient as rallies extend into tense final sets. The science behind adding weight is compelling. In structured 8-week squat protocols, athletes see dramatic improvements. Maximal squat force increases by nearly 19%. Explosive rate of force development climbs over 37%. Lean mass and thigh thickness grow, and knee extensor strength surges by 16%. For Tsitsipas, who repeatedly launches into split steps, lunges, and recovery sprints, this increased rate of force output translates into sharper accelerations, more forceful push-offs, and quicker shifts when reacting to an opponent's changing direction. Moreover, heavy squats do not merely bulk up muscles, they refine neuromuscular coordination. Performing loaded multi-joint movements forces the trunk, hips, and lower body to fire in a highly synchronized manner. This intermuscular coordination of agonist, antagonist, and stabilizer muscles blends strength with stability, allowing Tsitsipas to push off rapidly without losing posture or overloading his spine. On the court, this becomes the difference between maintaining balance to finish a shot and collapsing into a recovery scramble. Combining traditional strength training, such as squats, with plyometric or ballistic elements has also been shown to yield superior gains in power and explosiveness compared to either approach alone. So when weighted squats are integrated into a broader regimen, perhaps followed by jump variations or split squat plyometrics, the training compounds, his legs gain force, and his ability to express that force quickly rises alongside it. It becomes an engine built for both strength and speed, tailored for tennis's explosive, multi-directional demands. The utility extends beyond performance metrics. Weighted squats help mitigate injury risk too. These movements strengthen tendons, optimize muscular stiffness, and enhance eccentric loading capacity, all of which reduce strain when Tsitsipas lands awkwardly or lunges at pace. They solidify biomechanics in challenging movement patterns, especially when paired with proper form and progression. This refined control is invaluable during long, shifting rallies when tired limbs are more vulnerable to breakdown. To phrase it differently, when Tsitsipas lowers into a weighted squat, he's not just training one motion, he's reinforcing a movement language. Thigh and hip extensors drive his serve and push-off. Core stability manages rotational and forward chain transmission. Eccentric strength cushions landings from his jumping backhand recoveries and overhead finishes. This translates on court to stronger, more stable ground reaction forces, which feed energy into his kinetic chain for more potent strokes. Even though some studies, like one exploring amateur male players, didn't find a direct link between squat strength and racket head velocity, that doesn't negate the squat's value. Instead, it emphasizes that raw strength is only one piece. The transfer to tennis output depends on coordination, sequencing, and kinetic chain synergy. In Tsitsipas's case, weighted squats provide the strength base upon which he layers timed rotations, footwork, and stroke mechanics. When executed within a well-structured strength and power plan, they become foundational to delivering his full physical arsenal. Furthermore, certain squat variations lend additional benefits that resonate with tennis's unique demands. For instance, single-leg or split variations such as Bulgarian split squats develop limb-specific strength and balance, while goblet or overhead squat forms recruit more stabilizer musculature and improve torso control. These variations tap into the multi-planar, single-leg push and lunge mechanics frequently used during volleys, drop shots, and lateral recoveries. Over time, they help to iron out asymmetries and refine lateral control, a critical advantage when sprinting toward wide angles or shift stepping for his aggressive backhands. Beyond pure strength, residual hormonal responses to heavy compound movements like squats, elevations in testosterone, growth hormone, and catecholamines support broader adaptation and recovery, reinforcing power, tissue resilience, and metabolic health. Tsitsipas, like any high-performing athlete, benefits from these systemic hormonal boosts. They aid muscle repair, improve mood and arousal levels, and help maintain body composition and readiness across tournament play. By linking this back to his game style, weighted squats support the aggressive, all-court tennis Tsitsipas is known for. Serving with thrust, recovering with rapid lunges, powering swinging strokes from varied stances, all require a resilient lower body that can produce force quickly, sustain it through long games, and remain coordinated under fatigue. Weighted squats lay the groundwork for this capacity, growing muscle fiber quality and central drive, improving posture under load, increasing force transfer to upper body segments, and shoring up fatigue resistance. Envision a long rally at Del Potro-like pace. Tsitsipas slides, resets, accelerates into a wide backhand, jumps to finish an overhead, then sprints back for recovery, all within a single point. His functional strength emerges from a body shaped by weighted squats. The central nervous system, aided by neural adaptations from heavy lifting, helps him summon powerful steps under duress, shift direction suddenly, absorb landings without breakdown, and still send volleys with precision. The squat's compound nature mirrors tennis's compound demands. It's easy to undervalue squats when they feel mundane compared to flashy tennis drills, but in execution, their value lies in subtle, layered improvements. A deeper squat may extend glute quad activation into more practical jumping or pushing angles. Greater load tolerance may reduce joint stress on courts. Better trunk stiffening under bar may translate into more torque managed through upper body strokes. Over months and years, these foundations can elevate his serving consistency in long sets, his ability to retrieve wide shots, and even his capacity to shift momentum in tight tiebreaks.